Fully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples' traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. And now we will call our regular council meeting for August 5th, 2025 to order. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Council, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening? CEO Panasic, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening?
There are no changes.
Thank you, CEO Panasic. Council, I would actually like to request an addition to the agenda this evening. I would seek a motion to add item 5.8, appointment of deputy mayor, as a discussion item for council. Seeing that Councillor Race is going to be absent for the upcoming 3 weeks and our deputy mayor roster ends due to the election upcoming. So if there's a councillor willing to make that motion, I would appreciate it. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make the amendment that we add action item 5.8, deputy mayor roster.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, the motion on the floor is that council amend the agenda to add item 5.8, deputy mayor roster, to the agenda. We'll just give our secretary a moment to type that up. Is there any discussion? No, simple agenda amendment doesn't need discussion. There is no higher pressure job in a municipal government than the secretary typing away in a council when council changes tack. Are we up? Oh, excellent. Thank you, council. The motion on the floor is the council amend the agenda to add item 5.8, appointment of deputy mayor roster, to the agenda. Councillors, please vote now. And Councillor Magoon voting in favor by hand, and that will be carried unanimously. Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the regular council for August 5th as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Council, the motion on the floor is the council accept the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. That will take us to section 3 of our agenda this evening. Council minutes for adoption. Council. Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the regular council meeting of July 15th, 2025, the committee of the whole meeting of July 22nd, 2025, and the special council meeting of July 29th, 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Council, the motion on the floor is the council adopt the minutes from the regular council meeting of July 15th, 2025, the committee of the whole meeting of July 22nd, 2025, and the special council meeting of July 29th, 2025. Is there any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. That will take us to section 4 of the agenda, community announcements, of which there are none this week, and section 5, action items, and item 5.1, social media use policy AD 1205. CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Mayor. I will turn this over to Ms. Dragon.
Thank you, Ms. Dragon.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. You have before you today the revised social media use policy AD 1205. This revised policy better outlines the purpose and role of town social media and the roles and responsibilities of town staff who use town social media accounts. This policy was reviewed by Committee of the Whole on July 22nd and is before you today for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dragon. Council? Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to take the recommended action that council approves the social media use policy AD 1205 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, the motion on the floor is the council approves the social media use policy AD 1205 as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, is there anything further for item 5.1 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 5.2, Public Participation Policy AD 1209. And this looks like it's going back to Ms. Dragon.
Hey, so you have the updated public participation policy before you today. This policy was updated in line with modern practices and to reflect the need for more comprehensive public participation. This policy was also reviewed at the July 22nd Committee of the Whole meeting and is before you today for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dragon. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I have a question about item 4.1 under the policy 4.1.3. Promote and support, council will promote and support public participation without bias or lobbying the public. Can you explain to me through that public participation process? What is that in reference to?
Ms. Dragon?
Through the mayor to the rest of council. So that would be if, for example, we were holding an open house on a topic, that you would promote that there is an open house happening, that you could attend the open house and listen to people's views, but you wouldn't go into that open house with a preset opinion on the matter and be lobbying the public to your way of thinking.
Okay. Follow up?
Go right ahead.
Only because what happens when the wheel breaks? So here's a question. If there was a counselor who did do that, what's the next step?
The open ASIC?
Through the mayor to members of council, my suggestion, if it was, pretty egregious, that would have to be a conversation amongst the councilors.
Okay.
Typically that'd be included under the code of conduct for these types of things, but because we don't have it, I would say that would have to be a conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mann. And that's kind of what I was thinking since the government had made those changes. It was sort of like, well, what's the next step if somebody does? Okay, that's good. I'm good.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Councillor Stashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council approves the revised public participation policy AD-1209 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. Council, the motion on the floor is that council approves the revised public participation policy AD-TAC 1209 as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. That motion is carried unanimously. Council, is there anything further for item 5.2 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 5.3, extend council orientation deadline. This looks like it's going back to Ms. Dragon.
Hi, yes, me again. So this report is before you today as there have been some changes to the MGA. Previously, council orientation had to be offered. Now council orientation is mandatory and it has been split into two sections. The first section has to be prior to or on the same day as the first organization meeting. The second set of topics in the MGA says it should be prior to or on the same day as the first regularly scheduled council meeting. But this second section can be extended by up to 90 days by council motion. As the first regular scheduled meeting is less than 2 weeks from election day, we are recommending that we extend that deadline to allow more flexibility with the orientation.
Thank you, Ms. Dragon. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take the recommended action that council extend the deadline to complete the mandatory orientation training topics noted in section 201.1B of the MGA by 90 days after the first regularly scheduled council meeting after the 2025 general municipal election, and that council approve the date of the inaugural meeting of council as October 23rd, 2025, and the 2025 organizational meeting as October 28, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, the motion on the floor is that council extend the deadline to complete the mandatory orientation training topics noted in section 201.1B of the Municipal Government Act by 90 days after the first regularly scheduled council meeting after the 2025 general municipal election, and the council approve the date of the inaugural meeting of council as October 23rd, 2025, and the 2025 organizational meeting as October 28th, 2025. Council, is there any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councilors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, is there anything further for item 5.3 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 5.4, Parks and Sports Field Level of Service Policy CS Tax 7205. And this is going to Ms. Way.
Good afternoon, Council. This item is returned to you today for approval. In the updated policy, we have captured the level of service that is now included as part of the two operating business cases approved this year related to sports fields and, of course, our playgrounds. So those are all captured within the updated document. The recommended action this evening is to approve as presented. However, sorry, Anna, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the attachments, you'll note that Sorenberger Park is on the list as a neighborhood park. This chart was copied directly from our Parks, Open Spaces, and Trails Master Plan. However, that was done by a consultant, and Sorenberger Park is indeed not a town park. So I would just request that you approve the policy as amended, removing Sorenberger Park from the attachment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Way. And just for clarification on that attachment, you're specifically talking about attachment number 2, park classifications, Sorenberger Park as the neighborhood park listed, the last one on the list on the chart, and that's the only reference to it that you're looking for us to remove?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct.
Thank you, Ms. Way. Council, perhaps we could get a motion for the amendment before we deal with this otherwise? Councilor Chambers.
Stab at it. To make a motion to remove reference to Sorenberger Park as a neighborhood park on page 9 of 9 of the Parks and Sports Fields Level of Service Policy. Good enough? Close enough?
That's pretty good for me. Ms. Way is giving us a nod.
I'm sorry, what page was the title of the park was? I just don't know.
You can, it's Sorenberger Park. It's on page 9 of 9 of the level of service policy. It's the last attachment, attachment 2, and it's spelled SORN. Oh, there you go. You found it. Okay, council, the motion on the floor is the council amend the Parks and Sports Field Level of Service Policy CS 7205 to remove mention of Sorenberger Park. Is there any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councilors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Councilor Stashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council approves the Parks and Sports Fields Level of Service Policy CS-7205 as amended.
Thank you, Councilor Stashik. Council, the motion on the floor is the council approves the Parks and Sports Field Level of Service Policy CS 7205 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councilors, please vote now. That motion is carried unanimously. Does council have anything further for item 5.4 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 5.5, Fire Smart funding release. And I believe this is going back to Ms. Way.
Thank you, Council. This item was before you last in July, seeking to release the funding approved through the 2025 budget as related to Fire Smart initiatives throughout our community. During the last iteration of this report, we discussed the possibility to harvest some of the wood along the Willow, and that would offset some costs. We are still exploring that option. However, due to the creeks and the environmental concerns through there, we may see some challenges. So ultimately, the report just details our efforts to be fluid, depending on the types of approvals necessary for that location, may require us to reprioritize due to waiting around certain environmental pieces that can take up to 2 years. So if that does occur, we will pivot and tackle some of the other areas highlighted here, like around our critical infrastructure, behind the rec center, et cetera. I can take any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Way. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to take the recommended action that council approves the release of $100,000 from the 2025 operating budget for the purpose of conducting Fire Smart activities as outlined in the Fire Smart funding release report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, the motion on the floor is the council approves the release of $100,000 from the 2025 operating budget for the purpose of conducting Fire Smart activities as outlined in the Fire Smart funding release report. Is there any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. And before moving on, I'd just like to thank administration for their good work on this Fire Smart file. I know from council's perspective, we put up this money in the budget process, but we did note it looking for exactly what we got in this report. And I really want to thank administration for putting a good report and a good plan together. Council, is there anything further for item 5.5 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 5.6, one-off financial request, Hinton Cheer Squad. And I think this is going back to Ms. Dragon.
Council, you have before you today a one-off financial request from Hinton Cheer Squad. A local resident and community volunteer has submitted the funding request to support a formation of a new youth cheerleading club in town. They are requesting municipal funds to help cover essential startup costs, including equipment, training, and space rental. There is more information in the attached application form, and I'm available for questions if you have any.
Thank you, Ms. Dragon. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council approves the sponsorship of $750 cash to support the startup of the Hinton Cheer Squad.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, the motion on the floor is the council approves the sponsorship of $750 cash to support the startup of the Hinton Cheer Squad. Is there any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, is there anything further for item 5.6 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 5.7, one-off financial request, Athabasca Watershed Council. This looks like it's going back to Ms. Dragon.
You, Council. So you have before you another one-off financial request. This one is from the Athabasca Watershed Council. They are holding a community engagement event on Saturday, September 27th, and they have requested a cash donation of $400 to support a sponsored community breakfast, promotion of the event through town communication channels, and optional staff support in the form of volunteers to help cook and serve the breakfast. There is additional information in the attached application form, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Dragon. Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to take the recommended action that council approves a cash donation of $400 to the Athabasca Watershed Council in support of the open house and community engagement event being held September 27th, 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Council, the motion on the floor is the council approves the cash donation of $400 to the Athabasca Watershed Council to support a community breakfast as part of their open house and community engagement event being held September 27th, 2025. Councillor Ostashik.
Mr. Mayor. I have no problem supporting the financial request for this program. I think as a partner with Alberta or Athabasca Watershed Society or Council, that this falls within our realm of responsibility to help assist with this. But I did have a question for administration in regards to the request for staff support for volunteers to cook and serve the breakfast. That's probably not something that's in council's wheelhouse to direct. So I'm just wondering how that would be handled by administration and what usually happens with those types of requests.
CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Mayor, to the rest of council. I haven't looked at the staff support aspect of this, but typically, you know, if staff would like to volunteer outside of their duties as a Town of Hinton employees, we always encourage that. But being that this is on a Saturday, you know, we would not be requiring anybody to go in their town capacity and you know, paying overtime or anything like that. But staff, if they would like to volunteer for different initiatives, they're welcome to.
Councillor Stashik, follow up?
I'm not really sure how to move forward with this. Like I said, I'm fine with supporting the financial request, but the rest of it, I'm not really sure how that would fall in line. They're requesting support promoting the event through town social media. They're asking for mayor council to come and speak. They're asking for the town to provide volunteers to work. I'm not sure what to do with this moving forward. If we would approve the financial request, but not the rest of it, or I don't know how to move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik, and that is a good point. As I read the motion on the floor that council approves the cash donation of $400 to the Athabasca Watershed Council to support a community breakfast as part of their open house and community engagement event being held September 27th, 2025. I read that specifically as a motion speaking towards the cash amount only and not the other requests. I'm seeing nods, so I think that council is in agreement. CEO Panasic, can you speak to the other components of the request at all?
Yes, through the mayor to the rest of council. So all we're seeking through council motion would be the cash donation request. The promotion of the event through town social media, website, and other channels, that is governed by policy. We do have avenues for them to advertise on community calendar, et cetera, so they'll be directed there. And then the optional staff support from volunteer, I had spoken to that we'll put this out to staff if they would like to volunteer for this opportunity. So those can be handled outside of the council chambers. And then the request, if they would like to have council members come and speak, you know, once again, we can, like most of these requests, we typically handle it outside of council and we put that invitation to the mayor. And if the mayor can't come, the mayor typically will contact another councillor to attend in his absence.
Councillor Stashik, does that
Yeah,
help?
If it does, yeah, if I could follow up, I'll support the motion as it's worded with the understanding that the other requests will be handled through process and I look forward to it moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. There we go. Okay, council, the motion on the floor is the council approves the cash donation of $400 to the Athabasca Watershed Council to support a community breakfast as part of their open house and community engagement event being held September 27th, 2025. Council, is there any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. That motion is carried unanimously. Council, is there anything further for item 5.7 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 5.8, the appointment of a deputy mayor. So I'll speak to this one for council briefly. Councillor Chambers is currently the deputy mayor. Due to travel, she is going to be unable to fulfill the duties. Sorry, Chambers. Councillor Race is currently the deputy mayor. This is why we need to have this discussion. So our deputy mayor roster ends with Councillor Race in this next term of hers as deputy mayor. And going down the roster in the regular pattern doesn't function for us over the next coming weeks for a number of reasons. And effectively what we're looking for is a volunteer from council who will be in attendance or planned to be in attendance for the next 2 committee of the whole meetings and able to chair those 2 meetings. We also have the agenda prep call in the afternoons on the Wednesdays this month. But we are looking for someone who will be in person at the next two committee of the whole meetings. And I'm looking down at your table because it's either Magoon or Ostashik. Councillor Stashik?
As far as I know, I'll be around and would be able to take that on if that was council's wish.
Fantastic. If council would be interested in making a motion to appoint Councillor Ostashik as the deputy mayor for the remainder of the month of August, I think that would solve our problem here. Councillor Magoon.
I'd like to make the motion that council appoints Councillor Stashik as the deputy mayor for the remainder of the month of August.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. We'll let our secretary type that up. Okay, council, the motion on the floor is that council appoint Councillor Ostashik to deputy mayor for the remainder of the month of August. Any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, is there anything further for item 5.8 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to section 6, reporting and council reports. We'll start with Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing to report.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back from vacation. Glad to be back. Nothing to report.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Councillor Chambers.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. And I have nothing to report myself this week. Chief Operating Officer Ostashik, or not Ostashik, Panasic, reporting.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report.
Thank you, CO Panasic. That will take us to section 7, closed session. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that council move into closed session.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, the motion on the floor is that council move into closed session at 4:32 p.m. Is there any discussion? And we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. We are in closed session. Thank you, everybody, for coming and viewing in the audience. We will likely have a motion out of closed session, but we will not be coming back out for much discussion. Thank you. And this regular council meeting for August 5th, 2025 will reconvene in open session at 4:54 p.m. And we are on item 7.1 of our agenda, land discussion closed per section 30 of ATIA. Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to move that council motions and administration pursue the purchase of the property discussed in closed session.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Council, the motion on the floor is that council direct administration to pursue the purchase of the property discussed in closed session. Is there any, well, there's no real discussion here. Councillors, please vote now. Oh, Councillor Magoon in favor by hand. Councillor Chambers in favor by hand. And that motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Council, is there anything further for item 7.1 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to section 8 of the agenda, adjournment, and item 8.1, Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council adjourn.
Thank you, Councillor Ostashik. Council, the motion on the floor is that council adjourn at 4:55 p.m. Councillors, please vote now. Councillor Magoon and Race in favor by, or not Race, Chambers in favor by hand. This meeting is adjourned. Oh, my words are all over the place today.